Warning, the following video contains spoilers of the anime Akame de Kill. So, if you want a spoiler-free review, I'm afraid you're in the wrong place. You have been warned. All aboard the hype train! Akame de Kill is an anime adaptation of the manga by the same name. And god, this anime was everywhere, where those who haven't even heard the show must have been living under a rock. And what a great rock it must have been to have been able to miss this show.
So the only reason I'm actually aware of the show in the first place is, well, because of my friend Philip. You see, back when the show was first released, him and most of the anime community were pretty much going apeshit. So I decided to join Grand Central Hype Train to see what all the fuss was about. And I joined around episode 3 and I never looked back, watching every single new episode every single Sunday. But as I continued to watch every week, my feelings for the show slowly and gradually decreased. And that's not to say that I hate the show, it's just that I have very mixed opinions about this show. So then, ladies, gentlemen, otaku, I humbly present to you, with all my hospitality, my review of the anime Akame de Kill. Sit back, grab a cup of tea, and enjoy the review.
そいつゲイだぞ。
おいおい、誤解されちまうだろ。Gay!
Straight off the bat, I just want to point out, for a show called Akame de Kill, the character Akame doesn't exactly get all that much attention or screen time as a whole. However, as for the kill, well, it certainly has a lot of killing. Ga. The story of Akame de Kill is set in a fantasy world in which monster-like creatures called danger beasts roam the planet. A young fighter called Tatsumi leaves his primitive village to go and get a job in the capital, along with generic childhood friend A and generic childhood friend B, in order to send money home to their village and save the lives of the people living there. While on their journey there, Tatsumi gets separated from his two friends and enters the capital alone. While trying to find a job, he meets a big-breasted lady by the name of Leone, who promises him a job in exchange for money, but instead runs off with it.
So boys and girls, what have we all learned today? Never trust a girl with a single piece of cloth covering her tits.
Eventually, Tatsumi finds a job to bodyguard a rich white family, until they are attacked by the infamous assassination group Night Raid.
I can feel it. It's derby time.
A group devoted to killing the Empire's worst villains and making the Empire a better place, with the ultimate goal to overthrow the Prime Minister.
So let's go off on a kind of a tangent here for a moment. Why was everyone in Night Raid needed for this simple task? I mean, we have seen them in the future in this anime take on far greater tasks with only 1 or 2 members and succeed actually. So I kind of want to know why every single member of Night Raid was needed for this simple killing mission of like a defenseless rich white girl. And yes, I do realise it's to introduce the characters to the audience for our first episode and to engage the audience or whatever, but I just always found it kind of weird.
Tatsumi faces off with Akame until he is eventually told the fate of his two friends and introducing the darker themes the show has to offer. These themes are corruption and just sometimes pure evil. Both friends of Tatsumi were slaughtered by the rich white girl, in which in response Tatsumi slaughters her before reluctantly meeting up with the big boob lady who robbed him off earlier and be made a member of Night Raid. And from there on, it's a bunch of missions to kill a different target, hence why kill is always present. Kill the little sister? Wonder what that episode is about.
So after Tatsumi joins Night Raid, he has a sole mission to destroy the Empire, overthrow it, and create a better world for everyone. But alas, it is always not that simple, and that's where Imperial Arms come in.
Imperial Arms are essentially created by the first Prime Minister, and it's said that they are rare and only a few people have them, aside from all these people it seems. Some Imperial Arms are really creative, and it's what gives the show some originality. Honestly, the best thing about this story is the darker themes, and just how fucked up the show is. In the first few episodes, there is so much bloodshed and just fucked up shit that I was really enjoying it. But then, the killing of characters began.
Now just a heads up, if you're actually planning to watch the show, then just take note of one thing. People die. A lot.
Honestly, the deaths at first were pretty shocking, as I generally did not see them coming, especially in the first few episodes in episode 6, when Shilia died, a character that we hadn't had much time with. This completely threw me off guard, and I wasn't expecting it. While I generally didn't feel sad for the character, as we hadn't spent much time with her as a whole, the way it was done was great, and at first I liked the idea of main protagonists not surviving every little fight. It was very impactful, but then it went a little overboard. While Bullet's death was also good, and was great development for Tatsumi, it seems the writer completely hated all the characters and just wanted to get rid of them. This is even worse for deaths in the anime only ending, when not only loads of characters die, their deaths didn't feel satisfying, and instead were rushed and sometimes pointless. Why did Leone have to die in the last few minutes of the show? What was the point? It even got to the point where characters were introduced just to be killed off a few episodes later, like Chelsea.
This is what the main problem with some of the characters are. I mean, they come out of literally nowhere, add hardly anything to the plot, and are just simply killed just episodes later, for nothing. But then we have Estef and the Jaders.
In my opinion, when the anime introduces the Jaders and General Estef, then the show starts to pick up. For starters, Estef was awesome. She is strong, possessing one of the strongest Imperial arms in the show, and is personally one of my favourite characters ever. All the Jaders too were interesting and very unique, although a couple were kinda bad when it came to their deaths. The Jaders act as the opposite of Night Raid, a kind of rival group. The episodes in which these two groups battle it out are some of my favourite in the show.
Now we move on to the part of the review which I was dreading from the very fucking beginning. At episode 19 or 20, the anime differentiates from the manga storyline, as in it skips an entire freaking arc. It takes all this good crap that we got in the manga and deposits it. It puts it in the trash can on your fucking desktop browser on your laptop. Now when this happened, everybody was flipping their shit. And I can't say I was one included, because I can't lie. But just because an anime changes things from the manga doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. So in this case, was it good? Not kinda, I don't know, it's not, you fucking come here for a fucking tell you then. Overall, the story of the anime and my overall opinions will not change because of this, as after all this is an anime review, not a manga review, but it still kinda fucked it up in the end.
Honestly, this is why I have so much dislike for the show. The final episodes fucks up so much, and I'm not against anime only endings. Hell, Soul Eater did it, and many shows do it as well, and I didn't even care that it did not follow the manga. It's just that it was not very good. For starters, they introduced characters just to be killed. Deaths are quick and rushed beyond belief, and plot holes are everywhere. How did Mind defeat General Buddha when he's on par with Estef, someone Night Raid can barely even touch? Why has the show become so cliche? Why is Mind dying? I mean, she looks pretty fine to me. In episode 5, Akame stated that one cut from her Murasami was all it took to kill her if she accidentally cut herself, yet she clearly cut herself here, resulting in a bullshit power-up. Why everything?
The ending for Akame to Kill is kinda disappointing and honestly kinda sad in my opinion too. It's just so bad. Overall, the anime ain't terrible when considering the older episodes. It just seems so goddamn cliche at times. Honestly, when I thought the show was gonna move somewhere and progress, it just didn't and fell flat on his face. And the comedy, which was in the anime as well, was rather inconsistent and often inappropriate at times as well. I mean, we often had this really deep and awesome scene, which is really dark, full of the feels and the emotions and stuff, and then they just crack a joke 2 minutes later, which breaks up any kind of feelings or emotions you once had, and it just feels so inconsistent and sometimes even forced as well. So then, let's talk about the characters, I guess?
Akame to Kill's characters are kind of all over the place, and not many of them are all that interesting. Night Raid sets of characters just seem really cliche, and they barely get much screen time, and are not very developed as a whole either. Most of them, aside from the gender who doesn't really get to do much as a whole, and Akame, die. Tatsumi is the main character, but I never really liked him and just found him kind of dull. He's your typical kind of main character who would never let anyone die aside from mine, Lubit, Chili. Well, you get the point. He becomes more interesting, however, when he meets Estef, and god, this character, as I said before, is freaking awesome. Estef is one of the most satanic characters ever, and she's just fucking awesome for that too. She believes in her strength, and possesses one of the most powerful, strongest, and imperial arms too. She falls in love for a typical shonen character, and this is where we see a more human side to her, a more cute, down-to-earth kind of girl. And then we have Akame. Oh, Akame. As a whole, she really doesn't get that much screen time until the final few episodes of the anime, and that's just about it. Leone was a pretty enjoyable character who was one of my favourites in the show, and no, it wasn't just because of her big boobs, but she was generally a good character until her cheap, shitty death at the end. Mine, well, mine is just a really goddamn annoying character, being a tsundere who is really trying to compensate for her breast size by having a big ass gun, and sometimes the voice actress made her sound like razors on the chalkboard. If annoying as hell was what she was going for here, then she did a good job. The other characters of Night Raid are not really worth mentioning, probably aside from Lubbock, who gets a cheap death at the end as well like every other character. Ability's pretty cool and very creative, and he was another character I really like, probably more so in the manga if anything else. On the Jada side we have Wave, who has a similar imperial arm to Tatsumi. Dr. Stylish, who is a strange, masochist dude but still enjoyable nonetheless. Akame's little sister, Kurumi, who has a freaking awesome ability by the way, and probably my favourite amongst the Jadas. Bowles, who is an executioner, and Seryu, I think that's how you pronounce that, a girl who loves justice and shows a more dark side of humanity. She also has a freaking amazing dog. Why can I get one of those?
Overall, in my opinion, the Jadas were a much better group of characters than Night Raid was. Don't get me wrong, Night Raid was still pretty cool with some of their characters, but for the Jadas on their part, there wasn't one character that I necessarily didn't like. And that's saying something for a bunch of characters which I didn't really like as a whole in the entire anime. The only problem with the characters on both sides, Jadas and the Night Raid, is that their deaths are just really awful, rushed, and just sometimes pointless. Overall, the animation is not bad, it's just above average, but sometimes the animation can look oh so brilliant, especially in the last two episodes, episode 24 and episode 23, with Akame versus Estef. That fight was beautifully animated, and also the final fight between the Prime Minister and Tatsumi and everything going on there. These two episodes seems that all the budget went into those two. And honestly, even if the ending wasn't spectacular, it was still rather satisfying to see Akame versus Estef and stuff. Finally, the soundtrack wasn't that bad either. In fact, it was actually pretty good in many ways, and I highly recommend you go check it out. Aside from a few tracks which are kind of unrememberable here and there. So I better start wrapping this up, so my camera's telling me now it's almost run out of space on the SD card. So after summarising everything I said in the review, I will be giving Akame to Kill a score of 6.9. 69. 6.9 out of 10. It's not the best show, nor is it the worst show. There's many things I like about it, and there's many things I hate about it. Overall, you be the judge, and if you like what you saw in this video, then give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and go check out Akame to Kill for yourself. As always, thank you for choosing me as your entertainment provider for 10 minutes or so. And once again, I will see you next time on the next LIQ anime reviews, when I will be going to Dundale Online. Oh god. My name is LIQfilms and thank you for watching.
You can fly away. 世界は君の輝きを待ってる。大地を踏みしめ